All of us who have gathered for this summit likely have a few things in common. We want to be more and more like Jesus. We want to be effective witnesses of who he is. We want there to be something supernatural about our lives and what the Lord does through us. But history has proven that, and we have witnessed, leaders and evangelists who have drifted away from their first love. Maybe they started to ignore their inner life. Maybe their competence, their expertise, their experience got in the way of their dependence on Jesus. Maybe they became so driven to accomplish mission, yet they were neglecting their intimacy with him. So what happens when we drift? Well, we can become almost like counterfeits, fake, powerless. Some of us burn out. Our lives become more and more incongruent. And maybe what comes out of our mouth actually betrays our hearts. So how do we get closer in intimacy with Jesus and depend upon him and stay there? Well, Jesus shows us the way. In John 14, the disciples were panicking because Jesus was leaving. But he basically told them there's nothing to be afraid of. In John 14:20, he said, "When I am raised to life again, you will know that I am in my Father, and you are in me, and I am in you." And he goes on to say, "All who love me will do what I say. My Father will love them, and we will come and make our home with each of them." He was describing an intimacy that they had never experienced yet. And then he reiterated that he actually modeled the intimacy with his Father that he longs for each of us. In John 14:31, Jesus says, "I will do what the Father requires of me, so the world will know that I love the Father." And then he goes on in John 15 to basically explain that he's calling us to do likewise. The fruit that's going to come from your life will come from an intimacy with me. Obey me, and you will experience my love and my joy and answered prayer. I'm going to confide in you. You're no longer servants, you're my friends. And I chose you, appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit. But he does say in John 15:4, we have to stay in that close relationship with him, close enough to be pruned and not pull away when we're pruned. "Remain in me, and I will remain in you," Jesus says. "For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me." We can do nothing apart from him. He's told us that all along, but somehow our brains know it, or our hearts, but somehow we forget. So he modeled the intimacy. He showed the disciples the intimacy that he wanted, and he invites all of us into that same intimacy. When I first came to Jesus, I clung to him for dear life. Just to survive, really. I spent an hour in the morning with him and an hour at night. And then just before I went to bed, I would ask him to do surgery on me so he would transform me in the night. I knew so much needed to change. I was actually hoping it would be less painful if he did it while I slept. And I was on such a trajectory of transformation. I thought, oh my goodness, at this rate, I'm going to be perfect in about 10 years, which didn't happen, obviously. But 10 years in, I entered full-time ministry. And really, when I look back, it seemed that everything I touched grew and multiplied, and I had 11 years of successful ministry. But then the Lord changed my assignment. And it's only in hindsight when I look back that I realize he had some work he wanted to do on my inner life, even though I thought I was relying on him. But have you ever gotten to a place where your competence is actually getting in the way of your dependence? Well, the first thing the Lord did was he stripped me of everything that really contributed to my success. He took away the 300 volunteers, the 2 full-time assistants. And a history of relationships and reputation, and picked me up and put me in Power to Change, where no one knew who I was or my background. And he asked me to start a ministry division from scratch, which is not my sweet spot, and to reach society's most vulnerable, which I had never done before. And he used that experience actually to shift my posture before him, before others, and those we were seeking to reach. The pathway to deeper intimacy, actually, when I look back, it was excruciating. He called me to humble myself, to be more vulnerable than I had ever been, to relearn dependence on him, to recognize that I need the gospel every day, to show me that he hates pride, but he gives grace to the humble. And he showed me his heart for lost people again. I am profoundly shaped by that experience. And you know, reaching society's most vulnerable taught me many things, but one of them is that pride can actually come across as telling, where humility invites others with a shared need into a shared experience. So as time went on, you know, I healed and recovered and became stronger, but then the Lord showed me another trap that I can fall into, and I didn't see it until I attended a global prayer summit a few years ago. The Lord showed all of the leaders there that there was a global exhaustion in our movement. And what we realized is that the drivenness to accomplish mission was not matched by the intimacy of the inner lives of staff. And maybe you can relate. It reminded me of a book by Skye Jethani called With. Skye outlines 4 different ways that we typically use God even to accomplish mission. And then he shares the profound invitation of the Christian life, where Jesus, like no other religion, Jesus actually invites us to walk with him, to work with him, to accomplish mission. And to me, the word with, it suggests intimacy and alignment and love and communion. It's actually my word for 2021. We all want to be authentic witnesses. A few years ago, I was a chaplain for the RCMP, and I was taken on a tour of the detachment, and they took us into a room that was filled with counterfeit money. And I turned to the member, I said, "How can you tell when something's counterfeit?" He said, "Oh, that's easy. You study the real." And that's what happens to us as Christ followers. When we grow more and more intimate with Jesus, we begin to reflect who he is. And it keeps us real. Keeps us from becoming counterfeit. And as my friend Phil says, we teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. In Acts 1:4, Jesus said, don't leave Jerusalem without the Holy Spirit. And then in verse 8 of Acts 1, he said that you're going to get the power you need when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. And to me, he's basically saying, don't leave home without me. You can't accomplish my mission, without me. You know, like the American Express, don't leave home without it. We need him. We're not just sent. He says, I'm going with you. So we want our lives to be congruent and intimate. And in closing, I read a blog by Ruth Haley Barton just after the recent events in the US. And basically her challenge to all leaders, and I would add those who want to do the work of an evangelist, is to first get down on our knees and ask the Lord if there's anything dangerous or damaging in us or that could go through us. And she says, and I agree, the best thing that we can bring is our own transforming selves, lest we do more harm than good. So I want us to ponder two questions, myself included, to check our posture and ask the Lord, is there anything in the way of my intimacy with you? And then, Lord, is there anything that's damaging or dangerous in me that needs addressing? Oh Lord, do in us what you want to do through us.